Ron Mckee. They call me the Striper Maniac. Name started a long time ago because I was one of these ones that I threw my rods out the window of my Vega and traveled up and down the coast and stuff, fishing any place I could get to the shore and not get that thing stuck. And there were more than a few times I got it stuck. Over those years, I've had the luxury of not having to deal with the helicopter stuff. So my parents let me do and go where I wanted. When I was a young kid, I fished. I'd hop on my bicycle, I'd head on out, I'd come back at nighttime. And that's what I did. Through this, I had the opportunity to run into guys that were really the top of the game. Guys like Bob Pond, Stan Gibbs. I fished with them a lot. Bob Pond became kind of a mentor to me, and I got a chance to go to places like Woods Hole Marine Observatory and learn all kinds of things about fish biology, things about the striped bass, how they see, and so on. One of the things that I learned was about the light. The biggest thing that I hear people say all the time, oh, it's a full moon tonight, I'm not going fishing. Really? I got 2 bass over, well, a 53 and a 55 on a full moon night over the years. And a lot more. And I started hearing this as I got farther into things and I started making plugs. People were sitting there saying, oh, well, this don't work and that don't work. And I'm thinking to myself, Jesus, I just did that last night and it worked great. Why? Because I did not go with the stereotypes that we've created. My first 50-pound fish was in 1972. That thing, 10:30 in the morning, an Adam P40. It cast like a kite. I had a 9.5-foot rod. I cast this thing, it was an old Berkeley fiberglass rod, and she went like this all over the place and stuff. We fished that morning, and we got 25 fish. The smallest one was a 31-pounder. I took the 52 home, and I took a 48 home. The rest of them we gave away to people. Again, this is back in 1972, different world. But big fish don't hit during the daytime. How many here have heard that from somebody over their lifetime? Somebody tell you, oh, you can't catch big fish in the daytime. I know you have. I've heard it dozens of times. I go to tournaments and stuff like that I fish. Oh, you can't catch big fish in the daytime. You catch schoolies. Yeah, really? 52 pounds. Bright, sunny day. Why? The fish are there. We just need to sit there and have it here that they're still there. We just need to fish the light different. Dawn and dusk, that's the 2 biggest changes of lights that we're going to get. But you get the same thing, full moon at nighttime. The clouds come across. Every time that cloud goes along, takes his time, half hour or so to go by, you have a line that forms in the water. How many of you guys have heard about people fishing the bridges and fishing the shadow line? Well, guess what? That cloud going across and the light shining down past it, creating that line, guess who's right there at that line following it? The bigger fish. Change of light, using the light. It's there. The fish are there. They're not just going to go running away and hide at nighttime or in the daytime because the light's there. They might move out a little bit, but they're still there. The key is to learn how to make the light work for you. The change of light. Storms going through, middle of the daytime. It's darker than Zip's butt out there. Guess what? Fish it like nighttime. Full moon, nighttime. Down the Vineyard Derby back years ago. I'm throwing a pencil popper. Nice bright color. 1:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm catching bass and blues. I was on the stage with a 13.5-pounder on one of these things. 2 nights later, I'm out there, full moon, she's bright, you could read a book. I'm throwing an old blue and white Adam popper. Every 3rd or 4th cast I get a fish on. Can't catch big fish on plugs at nighttime, on popping plugs. Well, guess what? You can. I do it all the time. Why? Because every time somebody sits there and tells me, this isn't going to work, don't do that, I do it. Bob Pond taught me this. Stan Gibbs, the grandfather of the Cape. I'm a kid this tall. I'm using some real beat up M&M poppers and stuff trying to fish the canal. My family used to rent a place down there. I'm down there in the rocks. I don't know shit from shine old from what I'm doing. He's watching me, comes over. What you doing? Oh, I'm fishing. I wasn't catching. I'm fishing. Well, let me see what you're using. He looks at it. He goes back over to his stuff, comes back over, gives me a half a dozen of his plugs. I had no clue who he was. So do this with this one, do that with that one, do this with this one. He says, do you fish at night? I says, no, Mom gets me up usually around 5 o'clock. Oh, that's a good time. Use this one. Next morning, I got my first bass and stuff that was any size, 17 pounds. I think I was 11 years old, 12 years old. He took the minute to sit there and see that I enjoyed what I was doing and told me, try this because this will work better at that time of light. I didn't realize until years later how important it was, that time of light. Nighttime. How many people think that the only thing you carry with you at nighttime is dark colors? A lot of you. Why? Because that's what everybody online always says. Gotta have dark colors. I go at nighttime. It's really dark out. Some of you have seen the podcasts and stuff. I have my holy grail I throw, and that's my black purple chubby needlefish. If it's dark out, that's what's on the end of my rod. And I catch a lot of nice fish on it. I get some in the booth that are all beat to bejesus and stuff from it. One of the reasons, dark out. There's a book, and I've got, first copy I got a long time ago. Go online, hunt this thing down. It's Through the Fish's Eye. Mark Sosin and John Clark. John Clark was a marine biologist at Woods Hole. Mark Sosin, none of us that are over 50 years of age haven't seen his shows, or even 40 or even younger. Damn good fisherman. He's a crazy fisherman. He's like a lot of us are, the hardcores, the psychos. He just found a way to make more money out of it, that's all. This book goes through the biology of how the fish see. I use it all the time. I've read it 4 times. I got 5 copies. I got 2 of them that are loaned out right now to friends. And me, they ask me questions, you find the answer, then tell me what the answer is. You got the book, read it. Why? You earn this stuff. It takes a little bit of time. Light's something that's important and valuable. How many of you guys have fished bridges? Okay, that shadow, right? Drop a piece of bait down, let it go underneath it, and the fish will sit there and nail it. That shadow that you see there is street lights. At nighttime, lighthouses. You go find a lighthouse, you get yourself centered in front of it. You watch that shadow and that light come across. Find where the shadow stops. That's where your fish are laying. Right there. Here it comes. Light changes the sequence. All of a sudden it stops. So you get a line in the water. That creates a shadow line. The shadow line, use that light. The bigger fish are waiting for bait fish to get pushed into that. Your currents, your tide, your wind, all makes a big difference on this stuff. It is vital to keep that in mind, because one of the biggest things that we all fish, shorelines. That great big huge cliff behind you. Sun's coming up. You watch the shadow come in. Follow that shadow line. Cast, as soon as you can reach it, cast at it. Because that's where the bigger fish are getting the bait fish. They're sitting right there in that shadow. Bait fish starts getting more active and stuff, you'll see them. A lot of times you'll see your blitzes. That's how they start. Early in the morning, you'll see a shadow line. either caused because there's sand from a current along the beach, wind, big storms. They create the greatest thing in the world for us, is the sand line. That sand line is on the surface. It doesn't penetrate a lot. So what happens is the fish will be right underneath that sand line. You guys that like fishing leadheads, cast out off of that. Bring it down underneath that sand line. If you're out in the water, get out where the sand line is if you can. Cast along behind it. How many guys leave a beach because of the seaweed? Okay? Don't. Walk down the beach. Find where it hits. Get out in the water. Cast along that. Because you know what's hiding in that line of the seaweed? Bait fish like this. Thousands of them. And what's stalking it? Fish from this to like this. Cape Cod, up at the mouth of the canal. I was fishing in Sussex Beach. Everybody's complaining because the mung was in, and it was thick. It was thick. If you got into it, yeah, 15 minutes, clean your line off. I took that into thinking there. Walked down the beach about a quarter and a half mile, and all of a sudden it started thinning out. So I walked out. Everybody else is down in the rock pile and around the canal trying to catch fish. They're catching a few here and there. I'm numbing them. I mean, literally, it was nuts. I'd been there for about 2 hours, hammering the fish. Finally, one of my friends came looking for me. Well, I saw your bike down there and stuff. Where at? Didn't know where you were because I was at the bathhouse. He sees me way the hell down the beach. So we stayed there until noontime when the tide and the wind changed, and we had a ball. Fishing that line. We walked down, got past it. So here's the shoreline and here's the shadow line, the weed, and we're casting behind it. A lot of people listen too much to people say, no, you can't do this. Yeah, you can. So they don't go fishing. Go fishing. I preach this to people. Don't go fishing because somebody else said you're not going to catch something. If I had a nickel for the number of big fish I've caught from being a young kid all the way up, even today, because I sit there and went against everything that everybody says, no, you can't. I've won tournaments. I got 300 and something trophies on the walls in home tournaments. Why? Because I sit there and listen to Bob Pond, read books like Through the Fish's Eye, and went out there and put it into practice. Every once in a while, it took 2 or 3 days to figure it out. Sometimes it take a season. All of a sudden, when I realized what I needed to do, oh yes, oh, let me tell you, it was nice. When I learned about the sand lines and stuff and the seaweed lines, my percentage of fish size and numbers went up. Okay? Right now we have a huge market of all kinds of different types of lures made by people that fish, people that are good carpenters, people that are good artists, people who want to make some money, people that did this or that. All of it, we're getting flooded with it. Because of that, there's so many choices, it's hard to pick and choose. I go out at nighttime or in the daytime. I got swimmers. I got darters. Pardon me, mine suck, so I don't sell them to other people because I can't get the success rate of them coming out the way I want them to, so I'm not going to sell them. But they work. I have poppers. I have jigs, and I have metal. 2 or 3 of each one. I don't carry the fancy plug bags because this $30 plug bag makes it possible to put, like today's prices, $500 worth of plugs in it. Rather than having a $500 plug bag and $30 worth of plugs in it. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I do this. But later on, if you want to come up, you can see what I've gotten it and what I carry. Nighttime, the Holy Grail and a spook. Glow-in-the-dark eyes. Why? Because it works like no tomorrow. If I'm fishing farther along, and the water's a little deeper, I get a lead head. See the color of it? Stock and trade, white. One of the tricks with lead heads, and a lot of guys don't tell you this, see that split ring that's on there? When you have lead heads and you fish them, put a good heavy-duty split ring on it. When you're connected to that split ring, look at all the action that that has. It doesn't get pulled straight through the water. You're pulling this. So guess what? This is free to go like this, up, down. It's a fulcrum point. It works. I learned this 40 years ago from a guy who all he fished with was lead heads. Every single lead head he had a split ring on it. Sampos is what he used. That's it. The guy had buckets of them because he put them on every single lead head. Why do you have so many? He says, yeah, I'm out fishing. All of a sudden, the piranha get it. Chop, gone. Lead heads aren't like rubber that you come in with that. Lead heads have hair on them. So the fish will sit there and get farther up because it doesn't have something for it. It doesn't stop them. I have these in my plug bag. I have metal in my plug bag. Why? Middle of the night. All of a sudden I hit a place, and these storms will give you this. All of a sudden you have a place that was flat and the bar is moved. And the channel behind that bar is 10 or 12 feet deep all of a sudden because of the washing machine grinding on it. You've got the sand, you've got the bar, you've got a nice shadow line, you've got deeper, darker water. Big fish are laying in it, small fish are getting pushed across. They're coming in the shadow line. Remember what I said about light? That's what you end up having. Light is a very, very broad-based thing, but it gives you tools that you can use. And through any of this, if any of you's got any questions, feel free. Because this is for you to gain information and some education and different ideas and techniques. It's not for me to just talk at you. I try my best not to. When I was a kid, I asked questions about every single thing under the sun, and I still do. And sometimes the person I'm asking a question is a 10-year-old. Why'd you do that? Well, I thought the fish would see it. Okay. So that's why I tried it. Worked. When I was 10 years old, that's what I used to do. I thought the fish would do it. I didn't find it in books and magazines or anything like that. One of the hardest things we have with these conditions and so on is keeping in mind as they vary. And this I tell people at every single seminar I do. Fish may swim in schools, but they don't read a damn thing that we put in writing, nor do they hear anything that comes out of our mouths. All they want to do is eat and make babies. That's it. Keep that in mind. If you think you got an idea and taking into consideration the information you get out of guys like myself, try it. Trust your gut when you're out there. The sun's beating down on you and you see some bait and stuff, you're standing there in the water's edge, go get your rod, go down and cast. Sunny out, throw a surface plug on, throw a piece of metal on. The bait's like this, throw something that's close to it. If they won't touch it, get the nastiest, darkest plug that you've got with you, throw that out there. Because one of the things that somebody told me a long time ago, go opposites. If they won't hit the stuff they should be hitting at that time of day, try something they shouldn't be hitting. Makes a difference. And I mean, I'm talking big time. One of the things that I studied a lot over the years when I was fishing is I'd stand there with my rod and watch the shoreline. I'd watch where the seagulls were. I'd watch where the current lines were. And I'd sit there and try to see what was out there. Some days I'd just go and sit on a rock with a pair of binoculars and just watch things. And I'd make a plan for myself, and I'd go fish a certain spot, certain pieces of rock, because the easiest way of describing it, rock sitting out there, sun's over here, shining here. This side of the rock is shady. Big fish sit there. Big fish, fat and lazy. Have you ever seen a fat man run to a buffet? Well, guess what? Fish are the same damn thing. For a different reason. A fish, its meals that it takes in is life-sustaining. 10 times more than ours. Because all the calories they put through trying to get to where the food is makes a difference on how long they're going to stay alive. So you have that rock, big fish is behind it. Don't worry about losing a plug. You can buy another one. If you have to, bounce it off that damn rock. If you want a showpiece, don't take it fishing. I tell people this all the time. I have friends, they sit there, put my stuff in a hand on the walls. No, I want it to look like this. I get plugs that are stove up so bad it's crazy. Even when I was a kid, I did that when I couldn't afford them. I used to hunt the yard sales so I could get the good stuff at a cheaper price. Fish the shadow. And if that means you bounce the plug off of it to get where the big fish are, do that. You take your kids out. Don't sit there and tell them if they're sitting there doing crazy stuff with the plug. Let them do it. But make sure that watch them while they're doing it. Because when you're not catching stuff because you're watching them, they're going to get something. Why? Because they're not going by the rules. They're going by, I think, I'll try. Think it, do it. Think it, do it. I'm dead serious. That's your gut telling you something that you're not taking, you're not grasping it. It's telling you, do it, do it, do it, do it. Nighttime, watch the shadows, whether they're clouds, whether they're street lights. I don't like these new, how do we say, whether they're LED lights, because they don't throw as much light as the old incandescents did in the mercury lights. You used to get some fantastic shadow lines along the shoreline. I'd walk the beach, here's the street light coming up, and I'd watch and see where the shadow was. And I'd fish that shadow. In the shadow, the small bait's there. Outside of the shadow, the big fish are there. So not in the shadow, I mean in the bright area. The small fish are there, outside on the shadow line, that's where the bigger fish are. And hold on, because you're going to sit there and find some nice fish. You know, I've caught so many big fish in my life, it's crazy. Why? Because I've done everything outside what people say to do. Because I sit there and listen to Mark Sosen, you know, Stan Gibbs, Bob Pond, Peter Kinnicky, you know, argued with friends like my buddy DJ and Alberto. You know, we go back and forth all the time. Yeah, but you should do it this way. Why? I'm catching fish. Man, I usually get called some names and stuff by you because, yeah, you're right. What you throw out there, take into consideration of how deep the water is. Dark water. You're walking along the beach in the daytime. Good time to do some recon. All of a sudden you see a spot out there that's dark. It's on a sandy beach. Why is it dark? It's a hole. Big fish are laying in it. Small fish are swimming around the edges of it. Middle of the daytime, throw out there. Cast right into that. Along the edges of it and retrieve. Try casting beyond it. You'll hear guys, you know, fishing down in Jersey always talk about this out in the Cape. Fish beyond the sandbar. Bring it over the sandbar and let it drop. Comes off the sandbar, goes into deeper water where the bigger fish are. Bang, they nail it. Crucial to keep that in mind. Anybody got any questions? Feel free. I'm dead serious. Yeah, go ahead.
You know, before you mentioned that you used a popper at night. And you,
okay, go ahead.
So with that pop, were you popping it or swimming?
I was popping it.
Okay.
I was popping it. Full moon, I fished just like daytime. There are some nice plugs out there though, popping plugs that do swim sweet. Bottle plugs, I think I got one in here somewhere. Well, regular popper. Just retrieve that real slow under the surface, and it does this. Actually sometimes they swim better than swimming plugs do. And they cast farther. And that's something to also keep in mind at nighttime. I was fishing a place one day, down Rhode Island, a place called the Fenway. It's down by Musquamaket. Everybody's catching blues, like this, to like this, catching some schoolies. I'm looking out there, I can smell the bass. A lot of you guys know what I'm talking about smelling the bass. That watermelon smell that's there when they're feeding on stuff. I says, there's bass out there. I took a pencil popper and I cast that thing out as far as I could, and I'm retrieving it like a needlefish. Every once in a while, twitch. I had 11 fish on in the high 40s to mid 50s. 4 fish that, well, they liked the rocks, wrapped me up, lost the plugs. I had one hung me on. I'll tell you this story because this is a good tool to keep in mind fishing rock piles, especially when you don't have a whole crowd around you. I hooked into an, oh my God, and she was kicking my butt. All of a sudden, I felt the line hitting the rocks. I said, oh, I'm going to lose this fish. I'm going to lose it. Yep. Couldn't move it. She's right there. I could feel it. I could feel her. You know, every once in a while they do. I said, well, I'm going to try the Hail Mary. Any of you guys ever heard of the Hail Mary? I heard it first time down in Rhode Island way back a long time ago. An old guy by the name of Peter Kanicki told me about it. Opened my bail, held my rod up there, let the finger off the line, and just watched my line. I watched it and watched it. I probably watched it for a good 2 or 3 minutes. Finally, the fish realizes no tension. Line starts going. I counted to 10, brought it down, closed the bail. She took off, said, bye, arrivederci. And she went out, back and forth out there. I finally got her to come in. There was a little pocket, no wider than this aisle. I got her into there. 56 pounds. Dead ass luck. If I hadn't have sit there and had the idea of the Hail Mary in, I would have gotten that damn fish in. I lost 6 plugs to fish that night. The fish were dragging around as jewelry. Why? The night I'm using a pencil popper. Can't use pencil poppers at night, they don't catch fish. Well, guess what? They do. Why did I use it? Range. Fish it like like a needlefish. The color, I don't think it would have made a bit of difference that night. Because whatever they were feeding on, I think there was a lot of it because there was a lot of fish. It was a 5-day blitz this was part of. Blues, striped bass all day long. Up and down miles of coast, up in Rhode Island. Do not say, oh, I gotta go home, this isn't gonna work. Look at what you got in your plug bag. Try something right off the wall. Take in consideration the colors of what's there, the colors you're using, the colors of the bait, time of year. You know, one of the most oddball, right here. Give me a second here, if I can find it. I know I brought it. Black back, green belly, chartreuse, yellow sides. Anybody here know why this thing works so good? Lateral line. Opposite colors. I've made them. People don't buy them. It's okay. I use them. My benefit. Lateral line. If you have opposite colors on something you're using, and you guys that tie your own flies, that any of you guys that make your own lead heads or make your own plugs, keep that in mind. Lateral line, changes in color. You use that, light. Light reflects off of this. Through the fish's eye, tells you they only see certain colors in certain environments. They see opposites of what we see. So it's important to keep that in mind. One of the things Mike Laptu taught me back several years ago, he does a lot of underwater photography. He says you get down there, you're taking pictures, and all of a sudden you realize you're looking at yourself underneath the surface. Because the sun is hitting the surface and the water, and because of the light refraction, it's created a mirror. And it penetrates enough that it reflects back to the bottom of the water. And the fish see stuff bouncing off of that. That's why they see the dark backs on things sometimes during the daytime. Because of the light reflection. There's so many things to it that it's insane sometimes. Let's see, there's something I wanted to remember. Give me a second here. Where are we here? Yeah. One of the bad parts about daytime fishing is that light creates shadows from everything. Everybody likes using braid now. One of the biggest differences with the old monos and the braid is mono and stuff did not create a shadow signature in the water like braid does. For fly fishermen, I want to tell you, it's even worse. You're standing in the spot, you see all these fish in front of you, and you're sitting there loading up, and your fly is going back and forth, going right up there, and you watch the fish do this. One of the first memories fish have is that seagull flying over them when they've just got a consciousness and can swim around wanting to eat them. So when you're fishing, you cast your lure into the same spot 20 times, well, you've made commotion and you've made shadow. The fish that were there, they've gone over there. Light can work against you. Little things like that. You go to a place where there's a street light behind you, and here you got the street light there. And you're up here, and you're casting. You're casting out there into and around the shadow that moves all over the place every time you cast. Oh yeah, you're doing this, and the water out there, there's your shadow doing it. Oh yeah. And the fish that are down underneath there, they're saying, oh no. They move away. So keep that in mind. The light can work against you when you're fishing. Works for you in so many ways. It's one of the best tools we've got. But it also can work against you. That's why some of us old timers, when we're fishing a place and some clown comes down with his high beams on, or they're a light bar, and we start screaming at them and casting at them. Guess what they've just done? Every one of us now, this is shadow that is put out there, and it's spooked the fish. Guy said, well, I'm still catching, I'm bait fishing. Well, that's great. Anybody that's walking along the rock pile and stuff, your shadow just went by them and made a big difference. Montauk, greatest shadows in the world, because the light shines way up over, way out. So you don't have that behind you. But if you go in a place farther down where that lighthouse sweeps by you, it's going to adversely affect your fishing. So light, again, has things within it that can work detrimental for your fishing. So you use it. Find where that shadow starts, fish there. Everybody's fishing the rocks. Well, that's great, everybody's fishing the rocks. Wonderful. Go down there. Go to the edge of the crowd. Fish smart. And you will find a lot of fish that the people that are in the crowd don't find. I avoid crowds as much as I can. Unless it's a small place or something like that and you got no choice. But one of the things I do make sure is I avoid crowds that make a lot of light. Or if I'm chasing stripers, that you have 25 lures hitting the same spot. Splash, 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 and the water's 6 feet deep. After a while, guess what? Nobody's catching fish. And they moved over. So, again, scenarios such as light can also have good things and bad things with them. Use that. There's 1,000 spots and stuff that aren't in saltwater sportsmen and on the water and the fishermen. And those thousands of spots, that's where the guys who you talk to every once in a while, geez, I didn't see you fishing last week. You go out? Yeah. Where were you? Where you weren't. I'm serious. You know, I win tournaments. Why? Because I don't fish where other people are fishing. I fish using things like the light, the shadow lines, the clouds, the shade created and stuff by trees in a certain spot, or algae, pseudoplankton, phytoplankton. They create change in the water, so the light doesn't penetrate as good. Keep that in mind. One of the hard things with light is it changes water temperature, water depth, the life that's in it, wind, tide, rips, all of that changes what the color of the light does to the water. It makes things that will work for you. Some of these things are great things to use at nighttime. You go to a place during the day and you sit there and say, wow, that looks nice, I like that. Try it in the daytime, you're not catching them. Well, I'm coming down here tonight and stuff. I don't think I'll work there and I'll try this or that in it. And all of a sudden, oh, you know, and you got that drag set really tight because you're going to be fishing the rock piles. All of a sudden, the fish is in the current. It's a good fish, so it's got the fish, the current, and everything. And it's like, oh, Jesus. Back the drag off. Back it off a little bit. It will make a big difference. Sharp hooks, they're vital, and they do make your success rate of getting that fish out of the water way, way above and beyond. And here's my big don't do that I tell people. Years ago, people come out with these great ideas, these inline hooks. Yeah, they're great. They're like a Siwash. Siwash, put it on the back end of your plug. Do not put them on your belly hook. 80 years ago, the tarpon fishermen had all kinds of head and lures and stuff out there. You know what they did on them with the single hooks? They had a holder so the hook stayed down. So when the fish come up, it hit it. Guess what? It got the hook. I put a treble hook in the middle. Why? Fish comes up. That gets hit up against it. Guess what's pointing down? Bingo. You're going to get the fish. If you want it easy to release, bend the barbs down. Flatten them. Don't put a single hook in the middle of your plug. These are designed to be dragging out here so the fish comes up and hits it. If that's on the plug, this is what happens. It gets pushed up against it. That hook is not going to get into a fish's mouth. I watched a couple of these TV heroes one time. They were fishing for kingfish. Oh yeah, we've got 30, 40 hits today. How many fish did I watch them land? Maybe 4. The fish would hit it, bang, bounce it. Fish would hit it, bang, bounce it. Hit, bounce, hit, bounce. That wasn't getting into the fish's mouth. Now the ones that came up behind it, hey, it worked. Keep that in mind, because you do have a lot of guys out there now sitting there, oh yeah, you don't put those inline hooks and stuff. They're going to make it so much easier to release the fish. Yeah, because you're not going to hook them. I tried it. 5 of the best plug builders on the coast. We were good plug builders because we're hardcore fishermen. We're down the canal one time. We got the brain fart. Yep, we're going to try this. We had identical plugs. One with a treble on the belly. One with an inline hook on the belly. I was the test monkey. Yep. Every cast I'm on. And these were nice fish. 20s to 40-pound range fish. We were having a good day. I said, hey, Don. He says, Go ahead, I gotta see this. So Don stops casting. I sit there and put mine on. The same mackerel pop pencil I was using. I cast out, bang. Yeah, okay, yep. One, bang. Oh, there's two. Bang, grabbed it. Oh, yeah, back on the surface again. It took me 11 casts to hook up. I says, you gotta be kidding me. So Mike, he's down the other way. I gotta try that. Nah, it can't be that. Same. Took him 7 casts to hook up. Of course, while they're doing that, I got the other plug back on. I'm on every cast. Sometimes I'd lose the fish right there, hook would pull, hooked over here or whatever and stuff. But the success rate was 90% less because you didn't have something that had teeth on it in the middle of the plug. So you do what you want. These take us a lot of work to make. The hardcore fishermen that make them. A lot of thinking, a lot of trial and error, a lot of wall of shame. This didn't work, so we hung it there till we can figure out what we did wrong. We make them so that they will catch fish for you. Because we already know they catch fish for us. That's why we make them. Don't put those damn single inline hooks on the belly. Put them on the back, that's fine. They're a side wash hook, that's all they are, with a fancy name. Change the ring direction on it. You can actually order side wash hooks with the rings and stuff made like that. No different. So that's my spiel on the plugs. Fishing is to enjoy it. So make a game of it sometimes. You hear something someone like me tells you, try and prove me wrong. Go for it. Prove me wrong. I will not willingly give you bad information. Use the light as a tool for you. Make sure I'm not getting too far into things. Use the light as a tool for you. Don't say, I'm not going to go fishing because somebody said this isn't going to work. Find a way to make it work. Bob Pond had a great saying, everything will work some of the time, all of the time. You just have to be there and figure out at that time how to make it work. And I'll tell you, that's one of my mantras all my life. I get a lot of real hardcores I fish around, a lot of the kids that will come up and fish with me, and they say, well, how come you're doing that? Watch. And I'll sit there and be working, and there's a rock out there. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm casting on the shaded side of it. Or I'm casting on the down current side, and I'm pulling fish. What will they not do? They won't chance that $30 plug bouncing off that rock. So they cast 10, 15 feet away from it. The shadow's not there. They're not using the light to their benefit. So keep that in mind. It does work. It makes all the difference in the world. If you can't afford the plugs, hit the yard sales. If you want to catch fish, buy plugs that are within your price range that you can abuse the crap out of by fishing them to use the shadow. It's important. All of us that sit there and catch nice fish, you look at our plug bags and stuff, you'll see stuff in it that's like, wow. I mean, literally. You just come over the booth and stuff, you'll see some of the ones I've got over there. You look at how bad. It takes a lot for me to take the mojo and hang it on the wall. Because that's what I look at a plug that gets beat to crap. It's got mojo. She's working. So what do? Well, I make another one and try and match it as best I can. I'm pretty good at it, but every once in a while, I drink too many beers when I'm putting them together and I screw one up. And if you ever buy one of my plugs and you get ones like that, that's probably what happened. Send it back, I'll give you another one. But the thing that I learned is I take those ones that I screw up and I go out and try them in different places. I try different things with them because I'm not afraid of losing them. I get one that's all beat up. I go to that place where there's some nice shadows, big boulders and stuff all over the place, and I fish that. I take in consideration that shadows. I take into consideration the clouds and stuff. You look at some of the rainstorms, you'll see that. Now here's one of the things that rainstorms create. And I didn't learn about this until I went to a seminar a couple years ago at Woods Hole. You get a downpour. The salinity level of the rain that's coming down is minimal at best. Fresh water floats on top of salt water. So you'll see an area the size of this room that's ponded up. You'll see it. It's really flat, and you'll see the salt water around it, and she's sitting there. Sometimes it will get as deep as this. Well, that's just like the lens on a magnifying glass. And it changes how the light penetrates. So what you now have is a big shadow area that the bass are swimming with. Follow it, work it, cast it, work the edges, because you're going to have fish underneath that. It's a shadow. Keep that in mind when you're out there, because it works. I started doing that, and a beach you can run with a four-wheel drive is nice, because you can follow them along the beach. But they don't move very fast, so you just walk along. But don't be stupid like I do. I look back and it's like, oh man, that's a long way back to the beer. You know what I mean? So keep that in mind when you're doing that. If there's one pond, there's others, so work them. Go a certain way, you'll go to another one. Try that one, work your way around it. Because what it basically is, it's like a leaf on the water and the shadow underneath it. How many of you guys are boat fishermen? You ever look underneath the boat and see the shadow down there and see the stripers that you're trying to find swimming in their shadow, just drifting along with you? Shadow, right there. They're hiding underneath you in your shadow. Bait fish is over here, bait fish is over there. Keep that in mind. Use the light as a tool. And don't, because somebody says, oh, the light's not going to help you and it's going to make you can't do this, can't. Anytime somebody tells you can't, ignore it. They can't. They don't want to, or they're too lazy. And I'm not politically correct, so I don't pull my punches on stuff like that. Go out there and do it. You know, we got jobs, family. We got limited time sometimes to go and chase our passion. So use the tools that are there that can benefit you so you can do it more and more effective. Catch more big fish, catch more fish in general. Nobody get any questions? Okay, am I hitting things good enough for you and stuff on some of this stuff here? Yeah, go ahead.
First light.
Yeah?
How does that affect the fish? That seems to be magic time.
Yeah.
Sunset, sunrise. What do you think about
One of the things that first light creates is you have a time where the light is reflecting off the surface. So visibility in the water is 5 times what it is any other part of the day. You go to a place where it's calm, you'll see the wakes swimming on the top. You throw pencil poppers, you throw spooks, things like that out in there, and you will sit there and catch a lot of fish at that time because the light is just like this. Just coming in, it's hitting the water, and it's reflecting off of it. So they have way, way better visibility. They're right here. They're usually about a foot, 2 feet down at that stage of the day. Especially up in your rivers, your backwaters and stuff, on a day where it's nice and calm along the shore. But as soon as it gets up like this, all bets are off. The fish start dropping down. One of the things that will work better when it gets down that far, throw swimmers, shallow swimmers. Throw spooks and stuff that will go down deep, because that's going to sit there and sight those fish that are right there. When she gets up like this, okay, now the fish are laying next to rocks. They're laying on the down light side. So they're laying in a shadow, waiting for the current or the wind to push the bait by. Because that's when the bait really gets active. Anybody here tell me why bait gets very active at that time of day? Phytoplanktons, The meaty ones get very, very active at first light because they're feeding on the pseudoplanktons, which are the vegetables. So the bait gets very, very active right then and there. You'll see them on the surface. Nighttime, mackerel swim in a ball. Soon as the light starts coming up, where they can see a long ways and see the predators, the ball breaks up. Same with herring. Same with alewives. You want to see what those balls do though at nighttime with light? Drive a beach or walk in the rock piles and stuff where the silver sides are. Shine your light on. What do you see? Pandemonium. Shine it off and you see all the silver sides jumping out of the water as your light's going along. Okay? Because they're scared. They're scared because they know that means bigger fish. Did that help?
Yes.
Okie doke. It's 25 after. I can keep going if you like. It's your choice. I'm not sure what their schedule is for how long I was supposed to be out here. Obviously, they haven't come in and told me to go, so there's a couple other things I want to touch on. Okay. Time of moon. Watch the calendar. Moon rises, say, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Moon set's going to be probably 11 o'clock. Maybe midnight. 4 or 5 days later, moonrise is later, so you get a dark dusk. Use that. But make sure in your plug bag you have plugs for fishing the bright. Use the different stages of the moon rise and the moon set, because each one of those gives you a window of 2 different types of fishing at nighttime. Moonrise, more light coming in, fish darker stuff. Moon gets up there, okay. Now you can sit there and fish the bright stuff. My rule of thumb at nighttime for my fishing, I use green over white right at dusk. If there's squid in there, I use pink backs. If there's a lot of squid, I use squid swimmers. When she starts getting darker, I go to my black purple, things like that. Later on at night, you get a real bright moon, parrot, yellow over white or yellow or white. That's my 3 colors if I'm going to fish anything like swimmers in the full moon. In my plug bag, there are always 2 or 3 or 4 poppers. Why? They work. They work big time. So keep that in mind. On the other side of it, right before daybreak, she's dark. It's going to have a longer sunrise. It's going to be farther out, and it's going to be a darker one. When she brightens up, that's really when it's going to get nice for you. Right there at daybreak, because the way the light is and the diffraction across the water, I never knew about that. When I learned about it, and then all of a sudden the bell went off, it's like, that's what that was. That's why it's been like that all these years. Ooh. You know, we aren't born with all of it. We find it out because we sit there and look for different pieces of information, we listen to stuff. So, moonrise and moonset are crucial for what you carry in your plug bag. Because here's the bad part. This beast weighs probably about 25 pounds. You're out there in the rocks and stuff, that's a lot of weight. I love watching the guys out there with these 60-pound boga grips. I got 2 of them and I have 1 hanging at home. They're on the boat, that's the only time they get used. Why? They weigh 3 pounds. No, I'm not carrying that with me. If anything, instead of 3 pounds of that, I'll throw a couple beers in there or something. I mean, seriously, they're going to be better for you. So you want to sit there and have a bag that's loaded sparse enough to do the job and not heavy enough. So it's, by the time you get back to the truck, yeah, it is brutal. And here's a funny story you guys will laugh at. Long time ago, I'm fishing the derby down the vineyard. Well, I don't know if any of you guys, probably a lot of you know about Squibnocket and how far out it is, the old bass stand. Well, beyond Squibnocket, there's 3 other points. The walk from where you park to Squibnocket alone, if you're not casting, is 45 minutes or better across all kinds of seaweed-covered rocks and boulders. Then you come into a place where there's a little cut. Now, if you sit there and get to the 3rd one out, you've got an hour and a half of traveling. If you're fishing your way out, it's 4 hours. I'm fishing the derby. I'm out there, I get a nice bass. I bring it on in. Yeah, I think I'll keep this one. Why not? I'll take it over and weigh it. I got something to eat. When I got back to the truck, I was soaked from head to toe. I could feel the sweat squishing in the bottom of my waders. I threw that thing into the truck and just sit there and 3 waters down and stuff, and I was like, good God almighty. I drove to the weigh-in. Roy Langley's the weighmaster, friend of mine. I go dragging that thing in there, and I'm still in my waders. I'm still soaked. I look like somebody had dropped me off a plane or something, you know, and just drove floating away. I'm dragging that fish in. Now, I never drag a fish when you want to weigh it in. 100 so ounces make a big difference. I'm dragging that thing. I put it up on the waist platform. Oh, nice fish. Yeah. Yep, 27 pounds. I said, bullshit. He says, he's looking at me like, I'm questioning him? He's a friend of mine. Nope. He says, no, it's got to be bigger than 27 pounds. All of a sudden, the light went off. He's looking at me. He says, you didn't. He says, yeah, I did. He says, how far out were you? I says, I was at the 3rd point, past Squibby. A couple of the other guys that were behind me, they're looking at me. There wasn't, some of the comments were, the nuts were in it, but there were a couple of extras deleted, added into it and stuff, about the questioning my lack of sense, common sense, brains, judgment, whatever. Don't be way the hell away from where you're parked and decide you're going to drag a fish, or a couple blues or something like that, all that distance. I'm gonna tell you, it ain't worth it. All right, I hope I gave you guys some good information. Yes?
Fishing a popper at night, do you have more success fishing a sinking popper over a glory popper and retrieving it?
When I'm fishing poppers at night, I sit there and go the whole gambit. Literally. I'll sit there and fish it like regular in the daytime, and then sometimes I'll just go. And then sometimes it'll be bing, 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 bing. You know, see if I can make a lot of commotion and attract attention. As far as which has been the most effective, I try so many different things, I can't really sit there and say this one works the best. But I know all of them have worked. And the hardest part is figuring out which one's going to do the best for where you're fishing. Bait makes a big difference. Water temperature makes a big difference. How many other people have been in there? I mean, there are some places where big fish used to hang. They're not there anymore. We've either spooked them out or we killed them out, one or the other. They've gone other places to get away from us. And they really do that. They'll actually move their place of living and stuff 100 yards down the beach, 200 yards down the beach. Because why? It's too damn noisy over there. And they move away from it. Pencil poppers create more noise, and regular poppers create more noise than anything you're going to throw out there, especially the ones that are hollow plastic that have beads in them. You want to hear just how much they make for noise and stuff? Go swimming one day with a cotton cordell and be underwater and shake that thing. Holy Jesus! Yeah, I can see why it attracts the fish. Because I sure in heck can hear it. And they can hear noise a lot farther away than we can. You know, one last thing. Almost forgot this. It's right next to that in my notes. If you come to a spot and the water is there, or if you come to a spot and somebody's fishing there, do not step in the water because the fish are right there. Try it first. Cast. Stay back from the water. You see these steelhead guys and stuff on TV from time to time? They're like this. They're going commando. They don't want to put a shadow there for the fish to see because they want the fish are right there. Striped bass are the same way. Middle of the night, they're right there. They're either grubbing along or they're chasing the bait. You cast way the heck out there, that's great, wonderful. Or you do this, splash, 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 splash. I had a guy, I told him, don't step in the water yet, the fish are right here. He just went on, I'm going to fish on that rock. Well, he went out on that rock to fish. I'm a very good caster. So I walked down a little ways and I just spent the next hour. Every time he cast across the line, reel this line in. What are you doing? You're this, you're that. I said, don't walk in the water, you just spook the fish away. Well, guess what? You pissed me off. So guess what? There's a price to pay. Okay, so technique. One of the techniques is this. And all of a sudden you'll see a wake coming in and nail your plug. Sometimes that wake is attached to something this big. Serious. I am dead serious. Keep that in mind. So if you want to go out on that rock, that's great. Fish the water between you and that rock, because I will bet you even money right now, I'll bet you a plug that you're going to sit there and pull a fish out of the water you were just going to walk through. I've done it so many times over the years, it's insane. So keep that in mind. That's one of the little jewels a lot of people won't tell you. That's my rock. You can't fish that. That's my rock. I own it. You're a spot burner. Okay, idiot. You fish the rock. I'm catching fish. Okay? You guys have a nice one. Enjoy. You got any more questions, swing by the booth. I got business cards there. You can send me an email, whatever you need to do to get in touch with me or give me a call. I fish 8 months a year up and down the coast. So that's where I'll be when you call, probably. You guys have a nice one.